Sarah Leen is a fan of photographer Sig Harvey. She recently attended one of Sig's lectures and, as always, came home energized. Sarah had written down snippets of Sig's talk and told me, listen to this. Sig says when she is photographing, she looks for the gasp. I just love that. But what I realized is that Sarah, her life, her career, her generosity, that is the gasp. Or as her brother Jeff told me, when I think of my sister, two words come to mind: bold and passionate. She was the first woman to win College Photographer of the Year, which came with the award of an internship at National Geographic magazine. From there, she did the classic newspaper circuit with jobs at the Topeka Capital Journal, the Columbia Daily Tribune, and the Philadelphia Inquirer. As Sarah herself notes, this is a short sentence about a time in her life that gave her the skills that she needed to become what she is, a talented photographer and the finest photo editor that I know. She also fulfilled her dream of working for National Geographic. Over the course of 20 years, she published 16 assignments for the magazine, had 5 covers, which I think might be the record, and contributed to numerous books. She came full circle in 2005, hanging up her cameras and becoming a senior photo editor for the magazine. It didn't take long for then editor Chris Johns to recognize Sarah's gift for proposing original stories and nurturing new talent. He promoted Sarah, making her the first woman director of photography in the magazine's history. He told me I needed her honesty, her authenticity, and her impeccable taste. So did the photographers and the photo editors. Or, as photographer Alessandro Cinque told me, what makes Sarah unique is that she doesn't just edit photos. She edits the way you see. She makes you sharper, more intentional, more honest, more ethical, more committed. I often say that looking at your work with Sarah is like putting it through an X-ray machine that hugs you afterwards. It's tough, but it makes you better. Other things to know about Sarah: she dances with abandon. She devours books and movies. She loves cats. French fries are her kryptonite. She continues to teach, curate, and edit books. And for the final word on Sarah, her brother Jeff also told me, Sarah is my shooting star. And to think of how many photographers she has shaped and how deeply she has impacted the world of visual storytelling, now that is the gasp. Please welcome my dear friend and superstar, Sarah Leen.
Oh, doing any introductions after Kathy is so hard. She's the best. So now we're going to have a big switcheroo here in terms of mood. We are living in extremely challenging times. War, climate change, migration, extreme politics, and so much more assault us every day. Stories and images that are very difficult to look at, but necessary to see and understand. Photojournalists are those witnesses for us. Did you hear anything? Okay, good. Photojournalists are often those witnesses for us, and they are today more necessary than ever. This panel of photojournalists are those people, those photographers, doing that extremely difficult and often dangerous work. Please be prepared for some images that are very difficult to look at. So let's meet them and hear their stories. Adrees Latif is a Pakistani-American photojournalist and enterprise editor of for Reuters Pictures based in Texas. He has covered just about everything over his 3 decades with Reuters, including international news, sports, conflicts, natural disasters, and now long-term projects. Adrees told me, when you are an immigrant, everyone around you has a family, but we did not have that in Texas. What we had was a photo album, and the photos were special to me, and I would look at them all the time. In high school, my photojournalism teacher made me the photo editor of the school newspaper, and I was addicted. For me, photography was a way to explore American culture. That addiction led to a lifelong commitment to the responsibility he feels to the power of the photographic image. He says he first felt the true power of photography in 2008 when he photographed a journalist who was fatally wounded during protests in Myanmar. For that image, one of only 4 frames he made, he won the first of his 2 Pulitzer prizes for breaking news, the other in 2019. Adrees has also been awarded Photographer of the Year by Pictures of the Year International and received the International Center for Photography's Infinity Award, both in 2011. Adrees moved back to Texas in 2018 after his many international postings and assignments, and pushed to cover border issues both in Texas and California. He says, "I know the challenges that immigrants go through, especially women with children. I feel connected to their stories. I understand and relate to the reasons why people want a better life for their families." As enterprise editor, Adrees has switched from what he calls a wire mentality to a commitment to longer-term projects. Giving a story time, he says, "It was like wow. It took my sense of journalism to another level. I started listening, and I was able to gain trust." And like wow, please welcome Adrees Latif. Christopher Occhicone. How does a guy from New Jersey end up living in Ukraine and documenting war? Well, it was his grandfather who started it. His work as a medic in World War II, telling his war stories, blood stories, to his grandson. So in 2014, Christopher went to Ukraine to try to understand his grandfather's experience. And ever since, he has been documenting Ukraine, the war, the orphans, and the mentally disabled. In 2016, he became a resident of Ukraine, and since 2022 has been living full-time in Kyiv. Now Christopher has his own blood stories to tell. He says, "I don't know how you are supposed to be impartial. The only explanation I have is that there's good and evil in the world. The last 3 years makes no sense to me. I'm at a loss." A graduate at the International Center for Photography in New York, he has participated in the Eddie Adams and Missouri photo workshops. He is a regular contributor to Bloomberg, the Wall Street Journal, ABC News, and is a member of the Redux Picture Agency. About covering the war, he says, "Going to the front line is probably the scariest thing I've ever done. I see the drones fly by, air defense is exploding them, and it's all vibrating. Then they go, and sometimes no one is hurt, and everyone is giddy, and sometimes you stay up all night, lying in bed, with my pants on." For personal sustenance, Christopher turns his focus to creating longer-term projects like his works with war orphans and the disabled, where he can slow down, listen, and truly connect, as he says, look with his heart. Yet Christopher still asks himself, "I'm almost afraid if it ends, what am I going to do now? What am I? Who am I? What have I become? I have my own personal work, and that keeps me going. I am collecting evidence. I am a witness. I can't stop, even if I wanted to." Please welcome Christopher Occhicone. Ziv Koren. On October 7th, 2023, Ziv was one of the first photographers to set out to the south of Israel to document the attack by Hamas that killed 1,200 people. These are not easy images to make, and they are very difficult to look at. This work has been exhibited in dozens of cities worldwide and has been edited into a book and a film, more than 1,000 words. In 2025, Ziv received an ICP Infinity Award for his work, along with the work of Palestinian photojournalist Samar Abu Alouf and German photographer Nana Heitman. In 2000, Ziv's award-winning image that he made in 1995 of a suicide bomb that exploded in an Israeli bus and killed 24 people was selected by World Press Photo as one of the 200 most important images made in the last 45 years. Ziv says about that crucial moment, "It was very emotional. I was quite traumatized by the event. I had to ask myself, is this the kind of work I want to do in life?" And the answer was yes. Ziv has since dedicated his life to documenting humanitarian issues and conflicts in Israel and beyond. He emphasized to me the necessity of telling the story, but also that these choices come at a price. He said, "There's much sacrifice in being a photojournalist, taking the responsibility, traveling all the time. There is a price that comes with it, a personal price, that I must admit I am willing to pay. But my family, my daughters, are all paying a price. I want to be a good father, but I understand the importance of being out there. If you are not convinced of the necessity of the story, you cannot do it for a single day." Please welcome Ziv Koren. Jabin Botsford. Jabin Botsford loves a good hurricane, which I believe is the perfect training for a career covering United States politics. Growing up in Florida, fleeing from hurricanes, it was a high school class in photojournalism where he was struck by the power of photography to tell a story, to show real life. That photography could be important. That was the beginning of a journey that led to his joining the staff of Washington Post in 2015. He is also a new father to 4-month-old, absolutely adorable Brighton, who is here with us today. Congratulations, Jabin. In 2025, he was an essential part of the Washington Post team that won the Pulitzer Prize for breaking news with his images from the July 13th assassination attempt on then presidential candidate Donald Trump. About that day, Jabin told me, "To see somebody almost die, and somebody in power almost die right in front of you, it's crazy to think about what could have happened in a different scenario and what that might have done for the country in so many different ways." The images and video that Jabin made that day fulfilled one of his personal goals covering politics, to show the reality and the humanity. Covering politics is often tightly controlled by the media handlers, like where you can stand and how long you can stand there. His World Press winning image of a wounded President Trump provides us with a parallel narrative about human fragility as compared to the images of triumph that day that dominated most of the media. Jabin believes, "It's my job to show Washington and the United States, and really the rest of the world," oh my goodness, I forgot, okay, who these people really are. We all need to know so that everybody can make their own informed decisions. It's not my job to steer anybody one way or another. I just want to show somebody as realistically and as humanly as possible and leave it up to everybody else to decide what they feel about it. Please welcome Jabin Botsford. Thank you. Salwan Georges began his life and photographic career in Iraq, documenting his family when he was very young with an early version of the iPhone. Creating those images drove him to pursue photography and to become the deeply committed photojournalist he is today. Salwan was born in Iraq during the Iraq-Kuwait War. By the age of 8, life in Iraq was nearly impossible for his family, so they became refugees resettling in Syria. After moving to the U.S. in 2004, receiving a bachelor's degree in journalism and much hard work, he joined the staff of the Washington Post in 2017. As his friend and mentor, Ed Kashi, has so perfectly said, Salwan is a very sensitive soul, gentle in nature, but fierce when he must be. His images are powerful, intimate, and visually dynamic. He understands what it means to lose everything. And while he may seem like he now has it all, he never forgets his past, where he comes from, and from the importance and respect he must have for people from all walks of life. His striking imagery has earned him multiple Photographer of the Year awards from Pictures of the Year International and the National Press Photographers Association. And 2 years ago, on this stage, Salwan received the Siena Photo of the Year award. In 2023 and 2025, he returned to both Iraq and Syria to continue his personal family project, still using his iPhone. He will share that work with us today. When I asked Salwan how he keeps going in the midst of so much tragedy in our world, he told me, "What helps me is that I have been in the shoes of the people whose stories I tell. I have lived through those crises myself. Born in a war, there's always the hope, and what keeps me going is telling those stories." Please welcome Salwan Georges to the stage. Is this on the right slide? Okay. Can you hear? You hear? Good? Okay. I got a lot of devices here that I'm in charge of today. And let's begin with Adrees. But I don't know. Maybe this. No. Help. Sorry. Help. Nada. Don't you think that's the button? Okay, we'll just, oh, no, it's not changing. We need tech help. Oh, good, I got all the guys, as you can see. Okay. Well, what should we talk about? Don't move it. Don't move it. Well, I don't know if you noticed, it's all guys. The other thing is that it's all but one have a beard. This is the beard team. Okay, Adrees. Wonderful quote by Adrees. So, in all seriousness, Adrees, please tell us the story of this first image that you made that had such a profound impact on your career.
Thank you, Sarah. So this picture, it's shot I was based in Bangkok at the time. It's taken in 2007, taken on September 27th, almost 18 years ago to this week, during UNGA week in New York, where all the world leaders were gathered. In Burma, monks started protesting because the junta had raised the price of fuel, which were affecting them receiving alms from people because the people had less money to give to the monks. And in Burma, you cannot protest. Living in Bangkok, I learned from often covering the Burmese embassy and other protests that in Burma, if you protest, the military comes out and will just start shooting. And it's just not allowed. A few weeks earlier, I saw a small article while visiting my mom in Houston, and it said monks protest in Burma, and I said, wow, this is a story, there's a story beginning here. And for years, I had tried to get into Burma using my passport, and it just wasn't allowed. The Burmese embassy does background checks, etc. So eventually, I found a way to get in for the story. And I covered several days of protest. And then the military junta kind of broke down on the monks and ended up killing hundreds. And on this particular day, the monks weren't protesting. The streets were empty. And the people started coming out. and I had been walking the town looking for monks protesting, and I ran into a group of 15 people protesting. It swelled into tens, 20s, and then thousands. I mean, this happened within a 15 minutes or so. At this stage, I've been, photographing, but very discreetly. I've been hiding my camera. You're not allowed to photograph in the country without permission. There's no internet. There's no phones. This is before social media, 2007. So I arrived, I found a hotel where I had a clear sky to my satellite phone and my satellite. And I was expecting a moment like this to happen. And right before this moment happened, I was on a bridge. I had climbed a bridge thinking, there's no way I'm going to get in the middle of this, just from what I had heard happen in the past. And really, I was following my intuition. Then I was thinking, no, I want to go take this dynamic photo if it occurs. And I kept going back and forth from the ground back on this bridge. And finally, I decided, my daughter was born a year ago, and I was like, I don't want my daughter to be fatherless. And at that point, I made that decision. I was going to stay on the bridge. And then the army trucks came. This all happened very suddenly, within 30 minutes, and the shooting started. And I had prepared for the shooting, my shutter speeds, my aperture. The image is created on manual, and captured it. They had taken over the whole space. The military had. I escaped off the bridge, which thousands of people were taking refuge on. Made my way back to the hotel and transmitted the picture by satellite.
And you said that this image, it had the power. It taught you about the power of photography. It was picked up and used all over the world.
So it was on the front page of the New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times, most newspapers around the world. And of course, the impact, the world leaders got together, were at the UNGA and started having meetings, and all of a sudden, sanctions were put on Burma. And there was always rumors that Burmese junta did this, but there was no photographic proof. And all of a sudden, there was proof, and it was out immediately. Yeah. It was on the front page, New York Times, and it ended up. Sanctions led to, about 7 years of sanctions, and finally the junta gave in, released thousands of political prisoners, which led to democratic elections in Burma.
And since that time, you had a lot of international, so many international stories, and you started working a lot on migrants and immigration, like here in Pakistan. This was in Pakistan.
This is a
floods.
This is a floods.
Okay.
This is a community. Village was hit by floods, and I had moved from Thailand now to Pakistan, where I was born. I was running a team there because there was the Pakistan Taliban had really started causing a lot of violence in the country. But this floods happened, and I got access to this helicopter, and the helicopter came down to throw some food aid to the village, and I ended up jumping off the helicopter to create this image and somehow got back on.
And now you're covering the border, a lot of the action that's on the border, both in Arizona, Texas,
So
California.
These are some of the scenes that I covered just in the last year. Different sections of both Texas, Arizona, and California, and New Mexico.
As an immigrant yourself, how does it feel to see what is happening to migrants and immigrants all over the world, and especially in the U.S.?
Well, as an immigrant, I can relate to what they're going to go to once they do arrive into the U.S. Being without family, a change of culture, language, food, but also because I have worked and covered their migration from Central America all the way to Mexico. And covered the violence and gangs in El Salvador and Honduras. Like, I know what they're fleeing. They're as we've heard before, no one wants to leave their home unless it's a dire situation.
As you turn more to covering in other issues besides migration, how does that, has it changed your perspective about covering conflicts like these?
You know, I'm finding conflict in all the other stories that I'm covering. I mean, I started working on environmental stories in West Texas, and these ranchers just want to live a peaceful life, and you know, state of Texas owns mineral rights, so all of a sudden they have these contractors come in and, you know, overnight they're drilling into their land, and without the ranchers having absolutely no control over it, and shooting their dog because the dog's come too close to them and they've lost a family member, and it creates so much chaos. I had a rancher call me and said, you know, so one of the contractors just came and shot our dog. We think he's injured. Can you get out here and fly your drone to help find us our dog? He's possibly injured. And it's just, the conflict is involved in so many other stories that we cover.
When you see the pictures that some of these with the parents with their children, and you're a father yourself, how does that impact you?
Well, I mean, I can connect with the love and the basic need of just wanting to protect your family, to want to give them a better life, to just hold them in cold, wet weather. I mean, it's simple things, wanting to feed them, and you know, it's relatable. It helps relate to people.
Right. Thank you, Adrees. Christopher, welcome. So good to see you here. When we talked, we spoke a lot about what photograph sort of, one of your photographs, what photograph sort of made a big difference. And you talked to me about the work that you've been doing with orphans. So can you tell us how doing the work with the orphans in Ukraine, how that maybe changed how you feel about making photographs?
I mean, yeah, so I took this picture, I think 2016, in an orphanage in central Ukraine, and it's a situation like very, very similar to what you probably saw in Romania in the early 90s, and it's a non-story. It's not a story at all. It's just like business as usual. And I had been photographing on the front line, and my best friend is a soldier in the Ukrainian army since 14. And his commander visited a couple of orphanages. We were talking about, he brought me there. And I understand, like, these kids are tied up in bed, like, they starve to death. I mean, it's catastrophic. And these are special needs kids. It's a whole other set of problems with other kids. And I understand, like, there is nothing to photograph because nothing is happening. You're in purgatory. It's like nothing is happening. So I guess I'm a person like, it's kind of on the go, and I a little bit got ants in my pants, but this was a place where, like, I had to, there's 100 kids in beds, they never leave, and I managed to charm the director of this place, and he let me stay there for a couple years. I would go for a few days at a time and sleep there at night. I had crazy access, but nothing's happening. So I understand, like, I need to sit with each one of these kids and know them. I'm a witness to something that they're really, I look at what Amy Vitale has done, like, you know, for the things that she believes in, and like, I'm in awe because sometimes you're looking at these kids and you feel quite powerless. There's really not much you can do except document it, you know, and staying slow with them and just spending time with them. I feel like this is how you're going to get pictures, and the repetitive nature of it, you know, there's always something changes a little bit, but maybe by showing the repetitiveness, you show the state that they're in. Yes, I can tell you.
Just let me say, so you have done a lot of the actual frontline work, the war itself,
Yeah.
and you have spent a lot of time at locate stabilization units, which means people coming in, being brought in from the front lines, and they're stabilized before they're taken to the next level of care. So talk to us a little about working that closely with all this trauma.
So, like, from the beginning of my work in Ukraine, I understood, like, when I went there in 14, that I'm nobody. I just, like, right out of photo school, so I met guys, and I just stayed with them. And these guys are friends of friends that I met in 2022, and I just stayed with them. So, like, you know, I'm looking at this picture here, and it's the same. Like, these guys are also voiceless. Like, this is my friend Peretz. He's the guy with the cool haircut. He was killed a few weeks after this picture was taken. And, I mean, I forgot the question. It's a little actually overwhelming to see him on the screen. Like, right now, it's a little crazy.
I mean, that's okay. I'm just talking about how, I mean, we have this picture, and then in contrast, we have this picture.
Oh, yeah.
This is all going on at the same time.
Yeah, and I think, like Esther was saying, like, yeah, you know, you're documenting, she's documenting the scientists, but then what's happening behind. So I stay with them. I mean, I lived there. This is during the Battle of Bakhmut. It was like Stalingrad. It was insane. The building is vibrating nonstop. It's before drones were so heavily used. So I would just drive there and stay for a couple weeks and leave. And medics, like coming from the hospital, when they come to retrieve that, they brought pizza. Like there's a pizzeria open 30 miles away, and this is leveled. Like we're like rats in a basement. And but you know, you still joke around, you still have, you know what I mean? You're living your life, you're connected with these guys, and these guys are all connected with each other. It's a little bit like high school, you know, people gossiping and regular things going on.
So how has seeing in all this trauma from the orphans to the stabilization unit to the life, the death, how has that affected you personally?
I started therapy recently, but yeah, I mean, not good, to be honest. Like I feel like Rocky Balboa, like he needs to get knocked down a bunch of times to get back and fight. So like, I will go do something intensive, come back to Kyiv, and like sit in my apartment feeling shame about not being able to go back out to do more, until I'm just so disgusted with myself. I'm like, fuck. Okay, let's go. And then and sometimes even drive, I drive to the front line, and sometimes I even drive halfway and oh, I'm not quite ready. And I'll just stay someplace for the night and put it off. But luckily, I don't get that many assignments, so I'm doing a lot of personal work, so I can take this luxury, I guess, to take my time. And
I'm trying. I think it takes a little while, yeah.
So this is my friend's funeral.
From the stabilization unit?
Yeah, the guy at Peretz.
Yeah.
That's him. That's his brother. That's his wife.
And then we have this picture. This was very widely used image. Can you talk a little bit about this picture and what you think why it appealed to so many people?
The appeal, so I don't know, I was going with a Czech photographer into Irpin, like the city of Kyiv is like 60-70% surrounded in the first days of the invasion. And there's a destroyed bridge, and there was a lot of journalists watching the people come out. It's like, when you enter Kyiv, it's destroyed. They go under the bridge, and there's some iconic photos from there. Nobody's going in there. Let's go. So I'm walking across the bridge, and I see 200 meters away, how many dogs does she have? And then, those dogs have fucking wheelchairs? And I just realized, there's an empty spot between cars, and I just waited for her to come by. And I managed to take this picture, and I tell you, I was showing it afterwards to somebody, and I was like, nah, it's stupid, I don't know. I'm my friend, Polish photographer, was I'll give you $50 for it right now. So it's all right. And the next day, it went viral, Zelensky reposted things like this. It was in the Wall Street Journal, and so on. And it took on a life of its own, and I realized, something in her expression is defiant. So, and actually, maybe 2 months after it was taken, an advertising agency that was representing Ukraine asked me if they could use it. And I said, for what? And so we're going to put it outside the entrance of the Russian embassy in Berlin. And I was like, that's great. They're like, yeah, every morning we want them to see her saying, fuck you. And I mean, that's yeah, like literally that was the pitch. And I said, yeah, you can have it for free, please. And you know, and it took on, like like the city of Kyiv made a mural. It just became a thing. It's on a bank in Ukraine, made it on a credit card.
And this came out of it.
So yeah, things go full circle. So I have a good friend who's a Ukrainian writer, mostly history. But we were talking about maybe doing a children's book, and we came up with this idea, concept together. And my friend Les wrote it, and we hired an illustrator. And if you could read what at the circle in the back, all of the money goes to the guys at the stabilization point, the medical company. Because every time we collect stuff, it gets destroyed like 2 months later. So it's just like a constant circle of...
And translate the title for us.
It's Saving Mark.
The dog's name is
The dog's
Mark.
name is Mark.
I love that. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Ziv, welcome Ziv. Ziv just literally practically walked in the door. He's just got here, so anyway. Ziv, this next image, which is quite difficult to look at, fair warning, this is the image of the suicide bomb that you made in 1995. And you said that it changed the direction of your career. Can you tell us about how it changed the direction of your career?
Yes, first of all, I have to say something about the actual act. It was the first reaction of Hamas to the Oslo Agreement, wanting basically to not make a deal. Very, very relevant these days as well. It kind of changed my career in a way that after the bus explosion, the images went, I cannot say viral because there was no internet at the time, but it was a lot of magazines around the world picked it up. It was covers and double spreads in almost every major magazine around the world. And it made an impact. I think at the end of the day, this is what we all want. We risk our lives to tell a story, to be there when things happen, and wanting to tell the story of the subject that we are photographing. And it definitely made a big impact. And I think that after winning some of the awards, it really kind of became kind of a symbol of the terrorism and that took place in Israel.
And then October 7th happened. And you had told me about how you just picked up your cameras and started driving south. Tell us a little bit about how you made the decision to do that, and also you had to leave your daughters behind.
First of all, I would not have forgiven myself ever if I wouldn't start taking pictures on that day. I've been a photojournalist for 35 years. I've covered war and conflict worldwide. I've been in Bakhmut and in Ukraine in general for long weeks. And when it hits my backyard, I would not forgive myself if I wasn't there starting taking pictures on that day. On the other hand, I'm not sure if I knew that the attack was thousands of Hamas members entering the south part of Israel, literally conquering 22 villages and kibbutzim in the south. I'm not sure if I would have had the guts to go, but I'm happy I did not have all this information when I just jumped on my motorcycle and drove south and started taking pictures.
Mm-hmm. And what you saw was horrific, of course. We all know about the damage that happened down there.
Yeah, so this is on the actual day, on October 7th, entering Sderot, which is one of the southest cities in the region. And, this is what we saw. This is basically the very first pictures I took, where everywhere we went through the path where the terrorists went, and it was all just full of dead bodies everywhere.
So for these 35 years, you have been covering a lot of conflict in and outside of Israel. And I love the quote that you said earlier about how if you didn't believe in the necessity of doing this, you couldn't do it for a single day. So you've chosen this path, and are you continuing on this path of covering conflict?
First of all, I've done it all my life, and I would say that in the last 2 years, I've been constantly working, telling the story of what happened in Israel since October 7th, almost 24/7, with understanding the necessity of telling the stories of these people, of telling the stories of the people that were wounded, the ones that were killed, the soldiers that are being sent to war, the whole situation that evolved from October 7th until this day. And I take it as a personal kind of, I would say, obligation to be there with my own eyes and document for the world to see.
I'm so sorry, but I cannot get this thing to work. Salwan, do you think you could go up there and manually advance it? Thank you very much. And just go ahead and go on to the final image, the last image here. Just like in when you work in Ukraine, you're only able to photograph the Ukrainian side. You aren't able to photograph the Russian side, which is typical for all the photographers who go to Ukraine. And it's the same working in Israel, that you are only able to photograph the Israeli side of this war, and only. But you also said that you wish you were able to go into Gaza and photograph. And if you could, what story would you hope that you could tell there?
I mean, first of all, we need to understand that regardless of objectivity, we would wish, I think I can speak for all of us that are shooting in conflict situations, to shoot on both sides. Obviously, we want to make a complete story. But we shoot what we can and not what we want. Basically, I mean, and the same thing with photographing in Ukraine. I could not jump to the other side to photograph the Russian side. And the same thing with the conflict I've been covering in Israel throughout my career, and especially in the last 2 years, that I'm confined. I can photograph the Israeli side, and I wish I could go and photograph on the other side of the Palestinians, telling their story as well. I mean, there's a big support in Israel, by the way, for stopping the war, bringing back the hostages. Maybe this is the place to say that 80% of Israelis are not supporting the actions of the government, and we definitely think otherwise. And there are many stories that I wish I could tell, that in order to make a complete reportage and telling both sides of the conflict.
Thank you. Thank you. Jabin. I've been struggling with Jabin for 2 days now, so I got it now. He told me to spell it like J-A-Y, and now I'm on it. So go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Please tell us how making this first image impacted your career.
Yeah, this for me was when I was in school. I was very adamant about being a sports photographer. And this was the first time that a sport became news. I didn't grow up in a family that watched the news, read the news. Photojournalism was very foreign to me. And as I came to discover it, I thought I wanted to be a sports photographer until a bunch of inebriated college students decided to burn a couch. And the riot police showed up. So at that point was when I started covering news. Yeah.
So, go ahead. You also told me that you didn't choose politics. Politics chose me, and a little something with Air Force One.
Yes, I was an intern at the New York Times in 2013. And while I was there in New York, I found out that there was kind of a secret internship in D.C., in their D.C. bureau. And if you got it, you got to fly on Air Force One. And I thought that was super cool. So I told them I was really into politics at the end of that internship, and they surprisingly let me move to D.C. to do that. I did fly on Air Force One a few times before eventually the Washington Post hired me. And then when I started working at the Washington Post, we had somebody covering Democrats, somebody covering Republicans, and nobody was really interested in covering Donald Trump. And my dad and I used to watch The Apprentice, and they asked me, hey, do you want to go do this? And I thought, sure, why not? That was the beginning of 2016, thinking that it would just be, I don't know, a couple months, maybe the year. Here we are today, still covering Donald Trump.
Lucky you. You thought at one time that you would be a fashion photographer, that you wanted to be a fashion photographer, but you were struck by the power of photography to show real life. And now when you're doing this work on the politics and something, is it possible to show real life when you're covering politics?
It is, but you have to do it every day to really see through the veil that is set before you. I mean, 90% of what I do is somebody standing at a podium for several hours, and I have to get there several hours before that. And I'm told to stand here and shoot that, and you know, if I do that, then I'm doing my job well. But for me, that's never been something I've been interested in. I can be a little bit of a cynic with politics. My goal is to show the most real version of what is presented to me. And that takes a lot of extra work, because that's not what you're being shown. That's not what candidates or staff generally want you to see. They want you to see this shiny version of everything and help sometimes perpetuate their message, but that's not my job. My job is to show everything that's happening as unfiltered as I possibly can, hopefully make it look slightly more interesting than it is, so that you might pay attention and can see what's going on.
So July 13th, you got a pretty unfiltered day, actually, the assassination attempt. And this is a video. I don't know how you hit the space bar, maybe? So talk a little bit about how you made
record everything you think of this day, like just it probably isn't going to be that big of a deal, probably not that big of a day, but just record everything. So that's honestly the only reason I thought to press the button seconds after I heard gunshots. And yes.
So I'm just curious, like, so if you're photographing and then you're also having the glasses, are you paying more attention to what you're photographing or what the glasses are seeing? Are you kind of doing both at the same time?
I'd say 99.99% pictures. I mean, the whole thing happened in about 90 seconds, from him falling to him getting in a car. For me, it was like at least 30 minutes in my head. So for slow motion, I mean, the whole thing was slow motion. Just after the shots, there was just a moment of quiet as people sort of tried to figure out, and I thought, oh my gosh, I think I'm still wearing those glasses. And I just pressed the button and then totally forgot about them the rest of the day. And it wasn't until I was sitting in my car filing like 8 hours later in a dark parking lot that I was like, I took my glasses off to like wipe my face because it was a long day. And I thought, oh, dang, I'm still wearing those glasses. I think I recorded some video. I should check that and download it to my computer, and called my boss. I said, hey, I don't know what to do with this, but I got this crazy video. So we sent it along. It's the most viewed thing the Washington Post has ever put on the internet.
It's amazing. And this was the picture that was part of the Pulitzer, I mean, sort of the main picture that was part of the Pulitzer Prize entry that won. But tell us why you feel like this is such an important picture as opposed to those other like hero images with the flag and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful. I don't want any candidate to use my images for or against anybody. That's not why I'm here. That's not what I'm here for. There are a bunch of amazing pictures made that day. I like this picture because for me it shows the most real, fragile moments of somebody's life almost being taken, and other people's lives were taken. And so for me, this showed the chaos of the situation, the fragility of somebody's life, and just, again, trying to show the most real and authentic versions of the places I have to be.
Yeah, that's great. I agree. I think that's such a powerful image, and so glad we have that for our country.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Of course.
Salwan. So, hey, Jabin, do you think you could advance it for him so he doesn't have to try to talk and advance it at the same time? Yeah. Okay. So, tell us about the origins of this project and this photograph in particular.
Okay. Thanks all for coming. I feel like I was working too. So
you were. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. So this work started over a decade ago. I was still in college. A little bit. I started photography and didn't have a camera, but I had a phone. So I remember when the first iPhone came out, and I got my hand on one, and I wanted to tell what was around me. I wanted to learn photography, basically. So in school, I learned film photography, but at home, every time I had my camera around, my family was like, "Hey, you don't work, take that away." Like, it's just like, go photograph something else. Don't like photograph a lot of the intimate stuff. And then, growing up in Iraq, and this is my grandma, who was the first to make it to America and then help us immigrate, but also help us stay alive when we were in Syria, Iraq, by sending us some support. I lost my uncle, Salwan Georges, for a car bomb in Ramadi while he was a translator with the U.S. Marine. Him and his unit got killed by a car bomb and a suicide bomb, like was double suicide bombs. And then I started realizing that I started touching my, the whole situation, the war that I was watching on TV, the one I grew up seeing, is touching my own home, like it's coming inside my house now, aside from living through it all these years. And then I started photographing my family, and I continued doing that since the first iPhone until my recent trip to Syria. I entered Syria when the Assad fell the same week. Me and a group of journalists, like 4 of us, who entered from the north, as all the journalists rushed in from the Lebanon, Beirut. They're like, "We're gonna let you in, but don't say who let you in." I'm like, "Well, we want to see the route that the rebels took." So me and my few colleagues were able to see the first few steps, how Syria was liberated, which is on Highway M5. As I'm documenting, I'm going through this highway, started in Idlib, Aleppo, Homs, Hama, all the way to Damascus. And as I'm seeing all these totally different scenes than what everyone was seeing in Damascus, which is celebration and happiness, I'm seeing, what it took to liberate Syria from Assad regime, and how complex situation was, because it wasn't only the Syrian Assad military, it was the Iranian militants had offices everywhere, and mountain tops, like this one is the Shia Jabin Abidin, which is they were protecting a shrine, and there were thousands of bodies all around. They didn't know that the rebels made it all the way to Damascus. They continued fighting. They were totally cut off. But as I'm going down, the highway, my heart is racing. I know I'm going to go somewhere very special, which is Damascus. Damascus is where I lived 5 years as a refugee with my family after we left Iraq in the late 90s. And as I'm driving, my dad called me. He was like he was really emotional. And he told me, I just watched a video online, and I think I saw my poem that I wrote while I was detained inside the Assad regime prison, which is Palestine branch. We can go to the next one. And when I was like, what? Like, really? I mean, he was detained for 7 months and tortured, and he wrote this poem, which is I'll translate to you, where he said, like, I wish the reality was a dream and the dream was a reality. He was just thinking of us. We were worried about him. As you guys all know, what happened if any of the detainees go to the Assad regime prisons, they make him disappear. Thankfully, my dad made it out, and he's here today in the audience with my family. So, yeah, my family journey started way back, and I continue. I mean, now I'm photographing with the latest iPhone versus the first iPhone, and the quality have changed dramatically, but I kept the same type of work.
Yeah. Do you, so a lot of this work has a very sort of more artful feeling than sort of the photojournalism that you're doing more on a daily basis, like the pictures that you were taking of going into Syria for the Post were different looking stylistically than these photos. Can you talk a little bit about the choice you made about this, about doing that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'll tell you, doing personal work is where you feel the most authentic, where I'm not thinking of any deadlines, I'm not thinking of any headlines, I'm not thinking of anything, just using my heart and going back, and believe it or not, it feels like a time machine to go to these places that I never imagined I'll ever go back. Many of the refugees, so some of my colleagues photograph, we see them waiting at the border, trying to escape this country, trying to escape. And then finally, I'm seeing a lot of Syrians waiting at the same border that they escaped, trying to go back to their country. I mean, how many times we've seen this scene? Never, almost. And now I'm back to, for example, here in the monastery where I grew up in the mountains in Damascus with a monk named Hanna, where we were working, harvesting olive trees for years as I couldn't attend school. And then now I'm back in the same field. The picture before showed, walking the same olive trees. And what I felt at that time, it's the really all these things that survived the war. The monastery, the olive tree grew with monk Hanna, as well as grew in age. All these people, all these places continue, enduring what Assad did. And what Assad did, it was one of the most horrible things, any of the conflicts we've seen. Over 500,000 dead. Over 200,000 people disappeared after going into the jails, and I'm here. I'm not only working as a photographer during those moments. I feel like one of the Syrians who finally got back to go see their home, and I truly felt that during this trip. And the year before, 2 years before, I did Iraq, and I've showed that work in Siena, and now I'm here back at the place where I was running when I was 8, 9, and learning, and honestly it was the best education I could ever get. And the last picture I would leave you with, unless you have a question. I don't want to take all your time.
But I'll let you do that, and then I'll ask my question.
Okay. Everyone is still with me?
Yeah.
Okay. So, one of the last places I really wanted to visit, I was able to visit all the places that I made a list of, and I've been going back and forth to Syria 7 times since the Assad regime fell on December 8th. And this place was always very special to me because it was one of those places like how I started this work, where I've seen it on TV, I knew it was happening, I wish I could be there. Sometimes I wasn't even a photographer yet, now I'm a photographer. And then they were like, it's a really dangerous place, which is the ancient Roman city of Palmyra. And on that stage, the same stage you see where I'm standing doing the self-portrait, is that when I was 9, I went on a school trip with my church, and we went to see this cool city, Palmyra. And then we stood on this stage, and they were like, you know what, we have time, and no one is here, is kicking us out, let's do a play. And I did a play with other children on this stage, and now, 2014, I'm watching ISIS beheading people on the same stage. So the emotion that I had, and then now to go back and be on the same stage that's partially destroyed by the bombing, and to see what it was used from it, as I was standing there alone, and this was taken by a drone. That I was using, I'm using the controller next to me, so there was no one there. I was just dropped off, and everyone went to see something else, and it was still early on in the liberation. They told me there's ISIS in the desert, you have to be careful. But as I'm standing there, I'm remembering all the laughs and jokes me and my friends who made on that stage, and my only wish was to know if they are okay or not. But under the Assad regime, I could never find them when I went back.
I think because we're running out of time, I'll have a question for all of you, or all of you to answer. So I know that most photojournalists hope that their work will make a difference, perhaps make an impact, raise awareness, and that's the dream. Do you have that dream for your work? And do you think that that's possible? And if you feel like maybe it's not possible, or how do you kind of continue to do this kind of work? But first, do you have that dream for your work, Adrees? Mm-hmm.
I've always had that dream, especially after seeing that picture from Burma have so much impact, and I kind of realized, this is what I'm here for. Uh-huh. And my journey, back then I could do things very physically, and now not so much physically, but my storytelling has gotten better. And so instead of looking for those single images or trying to tell a story through a single image, which I used to focus on, now I try to focus on making connection, gaining trust, and telling stories through multiple images. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of grown. It's still there, but it's kind of evolved.
The dream has
absolutely.
evolved. Thank you, Christopher. You have that dream for your work, make an impact.
Of course. This work from these orphanages in Ukraine. I showed this work I've been working on it since 2016, and I show it to people, and I didn't know you were in Russia. I heard that. I heard, I think you don't understand what's going on there. I'm talking about in Ukraine. Like, people don't know about it, and they're in denial. And I suppose the goal, we're working on a book now, early stages with photo evidence, and that if there's one thing that comes out of it, is I can look at people in office in Ukraine and people in the EU that are in charge of the eventual ascension of Ukraine to the European Union, where you cannot say you didn't know.
Evidence. Ziv, do you have that dream?
First of all, I think we all share this dream this way or another. But I must say it's not based on popularity. It's not a question if, the thing is, it's not becoming popular. I think we can all share that every story we heard here is personal. We do have a personal connection to the stories that we work on this way or another, and it's not a question of we are engaged with our stories that we do, and we risk our lives for it because we want to educate people, we want people to know and understand something that we feel for. Mm-hmm. And this is what I think, if I can speak in the name of all of us, that the need to go out there over and over again to risk your life for something that for most people think we're crazy. You run to where most people are running away from, right, in order to tell the story and to show the picture to the world. So it's not a question of popularity and wanting to become famous. It's because we do have the urge of telling the story and giving the images and faces and words of the people, the subject that we photograph, for the world to know.
Thank you. You have that dream?
It's really hard to add to what my colleagues have said, but I'll say it from a different perspective. I think the dream is to be able to, as a photographer, it's a kind of lonely job sometimes. You are alone in those moments, as you are. You're photographing conflict, trauma, and it's so many things. For me, what became a dream is that I was seeing all these growing up as a child, and now I'm being able to contribute to what's happening. And also, I have to also look out for myself. A lot of problem we have in the industry where people forget to take care of themselves. And for me, I wouldn't say it's therapy, but also it's going back in memory what I'm doing with my personal work, and kind of using that as a way to reconnect with my past. And especially when we think of family, it's home. So as I'm doing this work, I'm thinking of my home, I'm thinking of my family, and there's no other dream than doing what we do actually, which is to go there and trying to make any type of impact we can. And sometimes we fail, but sometimes we succeed, and that's the chance and that we have to take. And there's no other way around it.
That's beautiful, thank you. And Jabin, speaking of family, I think Brighton has had a few words to say to you.
Yes, that was my daughter.
Yes. And how about you? Do you have that dream of how your work making an impact?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is not, I think I can speak for everybody, this isn't just a job, it's a calling. This is, this is important to us for so many reasons, but to be the eyes of history. We help tell the world stories through pictures, and pictures speak every language. I don't have to read a story, read a book to understand something by looking at these people's pictures, and that's a colossal responsibility. That's my personal addiction, and I hope we can keep doing that forever.
Good. As you can see, we have some amazing photographers here with amazing stories, and if we had more time, I could keep this going easily and dig deeper into their commitment and their passion. I want to thank SIPA Talks for putting this panel together and giving me this opportunity to be able to spend the last month kind of having conversations with these amazing guys, and thank all of you for sharing so wonderfully and vulnerably. That was very important, I think, for this audience. Please give them a big hand.